France has now weighed in on the U.S. military action in Venezuela, and its message is carefully calibrated. Paris says it does not mourn Nicolás Maduro's removal, but openly questions how it was done. Calling out violations of international law, France is drawing a line between political outcomes and military methods. The response reveals Europe's uneasy balancing act as the crisis deepens. France has voiced sharp regret over the U.S. military operation that led to the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro, signaling growing unease among Washington's allies. Speaking on French television, a foreign ministry spokesperson warned that the operation trampled international law, underscoring fears that American forces acted outside accepted legal and diplomatic boundaries. At the same time, Paris made clear it would not defend Maduro himself. French officials said he had lost popular legitimacy, failed to recognize election results, and carried out political imprisonments, adding that France would not mourn his removal from power. France warned it will not submit to what it described as an emerging law of the strongest in global affairs, a brutal order where power eclipses principle. Officials said they are bracing for this new reality, while forcefully insisting it must never be allowed to harden into an accepted rule of international relations. The French government spokesperson later confirmed President Emmanuel Macron does not support or approve the method used by the United States. She said the capture of Maduro, his wife, and his son, and their transfer to New York crossed a line for Paris. France nevertheless described Maduro's ousting as good news for Venezuelans, expressing hope that a political transition could now take place. French officials said they would support a peaceful process led by opposition figure Edmundo González Urrutia.
Firstly, we defend international law and the freedom of people. The method used is neither supported nor approved. These are indeed the words of the President of the Republic. Secondly, President Maduro is a dictator, and his departure is good news for Venezuelans. He has confiscated the freedom of his people and stolen the 2024 elections. These are also the words of the President of the Republic. Thirdly, France supports popular sovereignty, and this popular sovereignty was expressed in 2024. If there is to be a transition, then the winner of 2024 should play a central role. Once again, these are his words. France's position once again is clear. President Trump's action contravenes international law. We have always defended and will always defend international law because it is the condition for global stability and peace. However, this is about a dictator, and so we take that into account. His departure is, and these are the words of the President of the Republic, good news for Venezuelans. And thirdly, we don't just, once again, condemn or comment like some do in France on what happened. We have a position that is one of clarity, and so we must once again rearm France and Europe to enable them to be more sovereign. The Mercosur Treaty is still not acceptable as it stands. We want a fair and equitable treaty. Today, this treaty is neither fair nor equitable. You know that decrees will be issued tomorrow to ban the importation of a number of products that contain residues of substances prohibited in France and Europe. I'm thinking in particular of products such as mangoes, avocados, apples, and potatoes, which come in part, not exclusively, but largely from Latin America.
France's stance lays bare a widening European dilemma, embracing the promise of political change in Venezuela while recoiling from the military force used to impose it. As reactions reverberate across the European Union, the tension between desired outcomes and dangerous methods is growing starker and increasingly impossible to ignore.
A single military operation has triggered a wave of global anger. From Asia to Europe, protesters are taking to the streets, condemning what they call an assault on sovereignty. As Nicolás Maduro is transferred to U.S. custody, questions are being raised far beyond Venezuela's borders. This is no longer just a regional crisis, it's a worldwide reaction.
Shockwaves rippled across the globe as protests erupted on multiple continents in the aftermath of the U.S. attack on Venezuela and the capture of Nicolás Maduro. Crowds surged into the streets, massing outside American embassies and consulates, their chants echoing with fury and defiance. Demonstrators condemned the operation as a brazen assault on national sovereignty and a flagrant breach of international law, warning that the action could ignite dangerous consequences far beyond Venezuela's borders. In Seoul, South Korea, protesters assembled outside the U.S. Embassy, holding placards and chanting slogans against foreign intervention.
All of the so-called justifications for Trump's intervention were merely pretexts for military intervention. That's precisely what I firmly believe, and I am convinced that all these various actions seriously and profoundly undermine the fundamental sovereignty of the ordinary, everyday Venezuelan people. The land of Venezuela should be governed by Venezuelans. If foreign powers rule over it, how is that any different from creating a new colony or a protectorate? It was truly shocking to realize that the United States has no hesitation in using its military power based on such lies. Because right now, there are several regimes in South America that the United States does not approve of. Countries like Colombia and Cuba are examples, and I believe there is a very high possibility that this could expand to such nations. Wherever the United States has intervened, the blood of the people has flowed like a river. There has never been a single instance where U.S. intervention brought peace. It has always resulted in strengthening local dictatorships. In recent years, the United States has driven the people of Venezuela into a disaster of poverty and caused widespread suffering among the masses in an attempt to collapse Venezuelan society.
Similar scenes unfolded in Amsterdam, where demonstrators waved Venezuelan flags and carried signs reading "Against War and Imperialism." Protesters accused Washington of resource-driven intervention and criticized European governments for what they called silent complicity. Several demonstrators warned that Venezuela may not be the last. They argued the operation could embolden further U.S. interventions across Latin America, raising alarms about a wider regional precedent.
1492, that truly means we've been dealing with the indigenous Winca and the foreign Yankee and the gringo for many, many years. So this Trump is just another gringo, another Yankee who wants to impose, who wants to take the resources, who wants to make sure the people have nothing left to say.
This is a request based on the principle of government. This is a request regarding Venezuela. This is a request concerning the legitimacy of the duly elected president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro. Moros. And we are here to provide you with some valuable information because our government is condoning this attack on Venezuela, and we want that. It is known that not everyone here shares that position or belief. And we are here to represent the protest, which is also being expressed by the people of Venezuela who support the government and who are presumably being targeted because of their support for their president. Of course, there are a few other governments in Latin America that are also against U.S. imperialism, especially Nicaragua and Cuba. But in both cases, as in Venezuela, it is, of course, a mistake to think that you can change a popular movement by abducting its leader. They will find out that even if Nicolás Maduro is interested, and they will do the same as Daniel Ortega or Tom Miguel Diaz-Cano. This will not change the fact that the government is run by a popular movement that has its current roots in the masses and not simply reinforced by abducting one person.
I think this is just another episode of the European and European imperialist projects. Venezuela is just the most recent example. I'm also not entirely surprised if they decide to bring in a few other additional countries, especially those located in South America.
The U.S. operation involved airstrikes on Venezuelan military sites and the capture of Nicolás Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores. Both were transferred to the United States and are expected to face charges in New York, according to U.S. officials. In New York City, demonstrators gathered outside the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, where Maduro is believed to be held. Protesters demanded his release, calling the detention illegal and politically motivated. Meanwhile, in Tehran, protesters displayed public murals and banners condemning the United States and Israel. The displays, featuring stark imagery and warnings, signaled rising regional tensions as reactions to the Venezuela operation continue to spread. The operation has unleashed a wave of international outrage, drawing sharp condemnation from across Latin America and from major global powers such as Russia and China. As tensions escalate, European governments have stepped forward with urgent calls for restraint, even as demands for adherence to international law grow louder and more insistent. The widening backlash signals a deepening global rift, with fears mounting that the crisis could spiral far beyond the region.